Hello, I am Marisha and I thank you for stopping by. I hope you're doing well. Get your strips of cardstock ready because we're about to create some cards. Let's go ahead and get started. To begin, I'm going to bring in scrapbook.com's Sunshine Smooth Cardstock and I'm going to remove a sheet from each color in the pack. Using Waffle Flower's Skinny Stripes die set, I'm going to die cut the cardstock off camera. You do have the option to cut the strips with a trimmer in 1/8 inch strips. To begin the weaving process, I'm going to bring in scrapbook.com's Artiste glue, and on this strip right here, I'm going to add small dots of glue. Then from there, I'm going to adhere the strips vertically to this horizontal strip. For this particular project, I am adhering the vertical strips in front of the horizontal strip. You do have the option though to adhere the vertical strips, one in the front and then the second behind, and so forth. So one in the front, one in the back. Once my base is dry, I'm going to select another color strip and I'm going to begin weaving. I'm going to start with going over the first strip, then under the second, over and then under. And then once I'm done, I'm just going to slide it up to the top. And then from there, the next strip will be under, over, under, over, giving the look of a loom or basket weave. As far as the order of the color strips that I was weaving, I really didn't have that in mind. I basically just selected the colors at random and just weave the strips of cardstock. Periodically, I would bring in this card base, which is 4¼ by 5½ inches, and I would use it as my guide to make sure I was weaving enough for this project. Once I'm done weaving, I'm going to bring back in my liquid adhesive and adhere the ends of these strips. You also have the option to use adhesive tape instead of liquid adhesive. Once the ends are secured, I'm then going to cut off the excess strips of cardstock, but I'm not going to throw them away. I'm actually going to place them to the side as I can use them for future projects. I can use them to embellish cards or use them as a shaker element for a shaker card. Now I'm going to create my frame for the card. I brought in 2 rectangle dies from the A2 nested rectangle die set from scrapbook.com. I'm going to position them on this cardstock, which is 110-pound Nina Classic Solar White cardstock. I'm going to secure the dies to the cardstock with mint tape. And then from there, I'm going to run my sandwich through the die cutting machine, repeating this step once. Now I'm applying liquid adhesive to the back of my weaved panel, and then I'm going to adhere it to my card base. My card base is an A2 standard sized top folding card. Now I'm going to stack the 2 white frames. And then from there, I had this gold frame in my stash and I thought it would add an extra touch to the card. So then I'm going to adhere the gold frame on the outside of the white frame, creating a nice metallic border. Once I am done adhering the gold trim to the frame, I'm then going to adhere the frame to the card base. Next, it is time to add a sentiment. So I brought in scrapbook.com's thank you number 3 word die set and I selected the thank you die. I die cut the thank you out of black cardstock twice and I'm going to stack the 2, and for the top layer I'm going to use a black mirrored cardstock, my favorite from cardstockwarehouse.com. Every time I place an order, I have to add the black mirror cardstock to my cart. I love this cardstock so much. So if you get a chance, head on over to Cardstock Warehouse and check out the black mirrored cardstock. Love it. After I embellish this card is done, and I'll show you the final results at the end of this tutorial. But for now, let's head on over to our second card. For the second card, I cut this panel down to size, and I'm going to adhere it to a 4¼ by 5½ inch panel. Once it is dry, I selected a smaller, slightly in size rectangle die, and I'm going to position it on the panel and then run it through the die cutting machine. I also cut an additional panel that is identical to size. I'm going to cut a portion from this second panel, so I'm going to bring in the Hello sentiment that I'm using for this card, and I'm going to use it as a guide to get a visual of how much I need to cut from this panel. I didn't do any measurements. I basically just eyeballed it and used the mat to help me as a guide along with the sentiment. So I'm bringing in my pencil and I'm going to mark where I need to cut this cardstock. I'm also going to bring in a strip of gold cardstock that I'm going to use to create this card. And again, I'm just going to position it on this panel just to make sure that I cut this panel correctly. Once I am done marking this panel, I'm then going to cut it down to size. And right now I'm just double checking just to make sure I cut it correctly, which I did. And then from there, I'm going to adhere the gold strip to the edge of each panel. I had so much fun creating these cards. It actually took me back to my childhood days when I had a loom kit and I created pot holders for my grandma. I was also so ambitious. I wanted to create a rug. The rug was basically a tiny rug that could go into a tiny house. And I also created a little tube dress for Barbie. So let me know below, have you ever created a pot holder with a loom set? Let me know below. We're having a flashback to the early days. To add dimension to this card, I added foam tape on the back of each panel, and I'm going to adhere it to the bottom panel. I'm going to add a smaller piece of foam tape to the back of this piece of cardstock, and then I'm going to adhere it to the panel. Then from there, I'm going to adhere the sentiment. And then finally, I'm going to adhere this card front to my card base. These cards were really simple to create. The only thing that took a while was the weaving. But once you get started, it's really quick and easy. Let's take a look at the completed cards. Here is the first card that I created, and I added a few gold embellishments. Here is the second card, and I made a third card off camera. And here's what that one looks like. I love how these cards turn out. They're very simple, very easy to create. You can always create the panels and then later add a sentiment to it. And there you have it. They're cards that you'll have on hand. Instead of adding like thanks, thank you, or hello, you can add maybe happy birthday, thinking of you. You know, just so many things that you can do with these cards. Thank you so much for joining me on today. I always appreciate you for stopping by. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to like this video and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on new tutorials. I'm sending you love and a whole lot of hugs. Until the next crafty project, please take care.